Hey everyone, it's the Miserable Movie Man back once again with another video. I realized that I didn't actually do a video on Skeleton Crew yet. I did give some of my views and my opinions during our most recent podcast, both keys at the same time, episode 3. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. Also available to download on all major podcast sites. But I think I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in this video as to my opinions on Skeleton Crew, what I liked about it, what I disliked about it, and I have to say there was more dislike than like, and overall, what it's sort of saying about Star Wars. So I get that Skeleton Crew was aimed purely at kids in the vein of George Lucas saying Star Wars is for children, and I get that Skeleton Crew really tried to touch back and really tried to reference and homage the nostalgia of the older films that a lot of us grew up with in the 80s and 90s. So we're talking E.T., we're talking Goonies. I'm pretty sure the pitch was that it is Goonies in space. And there's nothing wrong with that, I think, personally. There's nothing wrong with Goonies in space, a bunch of kids in a lawless part of the Republic. But, you got to do it well. And you have to make sure that it hits the right notes. And I think Skeleton Crew failed in that respect in a number of areas, but maybe did succeed in one. So just off the bat, the intro, which is the most 80s ET style, Earth style town I have ever seen, down to the school buses, the bikes, the exams, the desks, the microwaves, the bullies at school. It is quite frankly ridiculous. Now, my 8-year-old son saw it, and when he watched it, he was like, "Dad, this is too much like Earth. It doesn't feel like Star Wars to me." And I was like, "You are right. That's kind of what they're going for in some ways now." And it was just so on the nose that the suspension of disbelief for me was gone in 5 minutes into episode 1. I get that there are school desks and people have to take tests, and dads are working hard. But even the visuals, the pan shots, the wide shots, the references in visual style to E.T. was just too similar to the point where, as my son said, it didn't feel like Star Wars to me. Now, of course, you got the kids who are interesting to some degree. The brave kid who wants to be a Jedi, that wants to run off and have adventure. You've got the smart aleck girl who is wearing very much a Han Solo style outfit, who is there to, I guess, be the brains and be a bit more tongue-in-cheek. You got the tech lady, the tech girl, who's there to sort of get them out of a few tech situations and also throw a little bit of emotional baggage when needed. And you got the cute, cuddly kid who apparently is not the same race as Max Rebo from the Max Rebo band, but is another race that looks almost the same, who is there to provide the heart of the show. And I really did think Neil did that pretty well. I wasn't as convinced by Fern, KB, and Wim as much as I was by Neil, although I think they gave Neil the best parts. And of course you have Jude Law, who is a stellar actor. And even in this show, I think he gave a great performance as Jod Narwood, which is an interesting name. I wonder why they came up with that. But right off the bat, right, the kids get into scrapes at school. They find the ship. They meddle around with things and blast off. But what was interesting to me about the planet they were on, which was, we find out later, and spoilers here, hidden from the rest of the galaxy, is that it was a really interesting mix of humanoids and aliens, maybe from a long time ago, but everyone seems to be living this human lifestyle. Like, at least when you go to other people's planets and Coruscant, everyone's kind of got their own thing going on. But this was the most human, but with aliens just thrown in to be alien-looking humans that I've ever seen in Star Wars. And again, that for me was not a great element. Then you have the pirates, and I thought the CGI for me was a little bit weak in this show. It came across at times a bit cheesy, so that wasn't too great either. But they go to a pirate planet and they meet Jude Law, who could be a Jedi, maybe, as Jod. And I thought Jude Law played it well. I thought he tried to keep a bit of mystery about his character, and of course he's a really good actor. So all the scenes he was in, I thought were very watchable. But they managed to escape the pirate sort of outlandish planet, and they have a droid obviously in tow. Oh, I thought the droid was pretty good as a pirate droid, played by Nick Frost. That was an enjoyable role, quite funny at times. But they're on this constant chase. And they meet this owl-looking alien that really reminded me of the Clockwork Owl from Jason and the Argonauts. Again, if you're going to make aliens look like aliens, they just don't make it like something out of Harry Potter. Give it a Star Wars feel to it. And so that wasn't a particularly well-executed character for me. And then they get to the Spa planet. And as if you couldn't get more human, they turn up at a spa planet where they get given garlands to wear, there's meal times and buffets, and there is such a human spa element, which was just transposed into Star Wars. I mean, they didn't do anything different than stick aliens in there, right? It was just so... It reeked of our culture so strongly that at that point I'd completely given up. Although I said I gave up a little bit before, but at that point I'd completely given up. It was worse for me than the casino at Canto Bight. The spa was just where the show jumped the shark. And they go to a few different planets to try and figure out how to get home. And there's a big mystery of where their home is, which is not very well protected on the ground, and I guess concealed by all of these gaseous nebulae that no one ever tries to get into. But a lot of the events and circumstances, it was just kind of go here, look at some stuff, dead end, find one clue. Go here, look at some stuff, dead end, find one clue. And they could have made that really interesting by having like cool parts of the history and lore thrown in, or have some real actual Indiana Jones style dangers if they're really trying to be Goonies in space. But no, they go to some resistance camp where everyone's sort of Finnish or Danish, and they just end up finding some clues there. So I thought the clue element really was not well done. I mean, if you watch Goonies, the clues are brilliant in that film, and if you watch other films of that nature like Indiana Jones, the clues are well thought out and difficult and make sense and fit in the context of the story. I think for Skeleton Crew, it was all just shoehorned in, just thrown in, just what can we do that might look good visually or whatever. So the clues and the steps to get back to where they wanted to be was not particularly great for me. Let's get on to some of the good stuff, though. As I said, I thought Neil's character was great. I thought the heart there was very good. I thought the elements where he sort of grows a little bit towards the end was a much better character arc for him than the others. And I thought Jude Law was excellent as Jod. I thought the character was an interesting one. Is he a Jedi? Is he a pirate? Clearly he's a pirate that needs to eat, because it seems that food is his driving force in this universe. But he played those scenes, the emotional scenes of being hungry and seeing his master die, so well that I think that was the saving grace for me of the show. That was the one shining light of this series, was Jude Law's performance, the way they treated his character. And it was an interesting one. I mean, what happened to all the Force-sensitive people afterwards? So to see him emote, I guess, in a strong way was particularly good. Threatening the kids, yeah, you could get away with it in the 70s and the 80s, maybe even early 90s, but the threat level to the children and their parents and all the near-death experiences the children went through may have been a bit too much for me. I think maybe now I'm an adult and I have my own kids, I don't want to see children being threatened with lightsabers at their throat, or parents potentially being gunned down, because one thing Jude Law did portray was a pretty strong cold side to Jod. I mean, he didn't really want to hurt anyone, but he was capable of it, and he demonstrated that in his acting. So that was well executed. But again, the danger to the parents and the kids, I thought was a bit much for a kids show, supposedly. But obviously they get back to the planet, and there's that big mystery, and the planet's defenses are pretty much negligible. It's just some robots who don't do any checks on anyone coming through, and then let everyone into the main areas, and they can shut things down, and the kids have to save the day by being blasted at and racing and avoiding things. I mean, at least in E.T. you didn't have that same level of threat with the children. They were in danger from the feds and things, but they weren't getting shot at or having lightsabers put to their throat or potentially having their parents being executed in front of them. So I think they took that a little bit far, as I said. But at the end, the kids win and Jod is defeated and everyone lives happily ever after, and Neil has grown a bit, but it seems like everyone else has pretty much been the same character the whole way through. And the secret is revealed. Mining treasure trove of credits that were untapped for years. So that whole mystery is extremely strange. And do I even care? Will it make an impact to me in the Star Wars universe? Will it have some kind of part to play in the future? I don't know, but it's not like I'm dying to know either. So overall, I thought the series was pretty meh. My son really didn't like it, felt it was too real world. And I would give it a 5 out of 10. I did discuss it with the Dyson, my friend Don, on the podcast. He loved it. His son loved it. So completely different view. Check out the podcast or the video here if you want to see what his views are. But 5 out of 10 for me. Neil was great. Jude Law was great. Everything else was subpar. And having, 1980s small town America in Star Wars and spa planets and ridiculous escapades and over the top danger wasn't working for me. But I mean, I don't think they're going to get another show, but I would be interested to see Jude Law's character again. Maybe he can be redeemed. Maybe even Rey can train him. Who knows? But let's see what happens there. Kids, don't need to see them again, to be honest. So that's it. That's my review of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, a little bit more in-depth in the podcast. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you agree with my reasons, or do you have your own reasons? As usual, please like, share, and subscribe to help support the channel. And catch you next time.